Hi, welcome to Kingdom Seeker Circle. This is the 20th video in the series going through Matthew. We are still on the hillside with Jesus. The Sermon on the Mount was a long teaching of kingdom ethics, but by this point in the Sermon on the Mount, the crowd has begun to realize something. Jesus is not giving small adjustments to the law. He is uncovering the deeper way God intended people to live all along, from the beginning. Again and again, he has taken commands they knew and shown the deeper heart behind them. Anger beneath murder, lust beneath adultery, integrity beneath oath-taking. And now Jesus addresses something that feels deeply human, the desire to get even, the instinct to return harm for harm. And what he says next challenges one of the most natural impulses we have. A reminder that this series is about what the text says, why it says that, and what stands out that gives weight to its context. Jesus begins with another phrase the crowd is now familiar with. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And this phrase came from the law given through Moses. It appears in several places in the Old Testament, and its purpose was actually to limit revenge. In ancient societies, retaliation could easily spiral out of control. Someone injures you, you retaliate more severely, then they escalate it further, and the cycle continues. Now, so the law introduces a principle of proportional justice. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The punishment must match the offense, not exceed it. But now Jesus takes the conversation in a surprising direction. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. That sentence immediately catches attention. What does that even mean? Jesus explains with several vivid examples. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn them the other cheek also. This is not a slap of pain or random violence. A slap in that culture was often less about its physical injury, but more about its insult, a gesture of humiliation. Instead of responding with retaliation, Jesus describes a surprising response. Offer the other cheek. Now then, another example. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. The coat was often the most valuable garment a person owned. In Jewish law, even when someone gave their coat as collateral, it had to be returned by night. But Jesus says, instead of fighting over possessions, choose generously. Then he gives another situation. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Under Roman law, soldiers could compel civilians to carry their equipment for 1 mile. It was a reminder of occupation and power. Jesus says, don't respond with resentment. Go beyond what was required. Go the extra mile with them. And finally, he says, give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Each example moves in the same direction. Instead of retaliation, respond with unexpected generosity. Instead of escalating conflict, break the cycle. Why does Jesus bring it up here? Well, point 1, to challenge the instinct of personal revenge. The human instinct for retaliation runs very deep. When we are insulted, we want to insult back. When someone takes advantage of us, we want to make them pay. Even though the law limited revenge, people could still use it to justify personal retaliation. Jesus shifts this focus. Instead of asking, what am I allowed to do back to them? He invites his followers to ask this question. How can I reflect the character of God in this moment? The kingdom of heaven is not built on cycles of revenge. It is built on mercy. Second point is to reveal the power of humble strength. Turning the other cheek is often misunderstood as weakness or being pushovers. But what Jesus describes is actually a form of strength. It takes strength to refuse retaliation, strength to absorb insult without returning it, strength to respond with dignity rather than anger. Jesus is not encouraging passive acceptance of injustice in every situation. He's describing a heart posture that refuses to let hatred take control, a posture that values peace more than pride. The third point is to reach radical generosity. Each example Jesus gives involves going beyond what is required. Turn the other cheek. Give more than what was demanded. Go the extra mile. Give to those in need. This is not just about avoiding revenge. It is about cultivating a spirit of generosity and grace. In the kingdom of heaven, people are not constantly calculating what they owe each other. They are learning to give freely and forgive others. This reflects the generosity of God himself. So what stands out that gives weight to its context? Well, point 1 is the law was about justice. Jesus addresses the personal retaliation, which was about trying to get around the law. The phrase eye for an eye originally functioned with legal systems in courts. Courts used it to ensure fair punishment. But here Jesus is speaking to individuals about personal response to offense. So he is not abolishing justice. Justice is important. He is addressing the human tendency to use justice as a justification for our personal revenge. Focus shifts from legal rights to personal character. Point 2, the example comes from everyday life. Notice how Practical Jesus' examples are a slap, a lawsuit over clothing, a soldier forcing someone to carry gear, a person asking for help. These are ordinary moments. Jesus is showing that kingdom righteousness appears in everyday interactions, not just in temples or religious settings, but in how we respond to people when tensions rise. Point 3 is this teaching prepares for the next command. The next section of the Sermon on the Mount will address loving enemies. What Jesus teaches here prepares the ground for that command. Before someone can love their enemy, they must first break the instinct of retaliation. Turning the other cheek is not the end goal. It is the beginning of a new way of relating to those who harm us, a way that reflects the mercy of God. So this teaching may be one of the most challenging parts of the Sermon on the Mount, because everything in us wants fairness. We want things balanced. If someone hurts us, we want justice, and often we want it quickly. But Jesus invites his followers into something different, a life that is not ruled by retaliation, a life that refuses to let bitterness control the heart, a life where generosity interrupts cycles of hostility. And when we think about it, this teaching reflects the very life of Jesus himself. He was insulted, but did not retaliate. He was struck, but did not strike back. He was mocked, beaten, and crucified. And instead of calling down judgment, he prayed, "Father, forgive them." The cross is the ultimate example of breaking the cycle of retaliation, where hatred meant mercy, where violence met grace, and where the kingdom of heaven revealed the true power of love. So when Jesus tells his followers to turn the other cheek, go the extra mile, and give freely, he is not asking them to do something he himself would not do. He is inviting them to live the same spirit that he embodied, a spirit that refuses revenge, a spirit that chooses mercy, a spirit that reflects the heart of the King. So with that being said, go in peace, God bless you, and have a great day.